So if you've seen the most recent episode of the Nintendo Byte podcast, you might have seen this.
What's the one Switch 2 game you wish to have played so far, and why did you miss it? Ooh, that's a very good question, actually.
Why, thank you. And you can go over there and check out their responses to that question. But what inspired it for me was that I've been working on two lists concurrently at the moment. One is a top 22 games on the Switch 2, and the other is a top 10 list for the games I'm still looking forward to throughout 2026. And what I realized was that there are so many games coming throughout 2026, and that there are a few games that I have missed. And when I realize all of the games that are still to come over the next couple of months, things like Pragmata, Darwin's Paradox, 007, First Light, and I'm missing games in my backlog like Resident Evil 9 and Mini Shoot Adventures. I just realized that these games that even though the Switch 2 is 9 months old, these games are probably going to be missed even years from now, just with all of the games that are coming out. So these are the top 10 Switch 2 games that I've missed. So at number 10, we have Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. And this is actually the only game on this list that I've actually purchased. I intended to play this during January and February, which I solely set aside to just devote to my backlog. But unfortunately, other games took preference in the end. I spent a lot of time on Dave the Diver, for example. And now it's just slipped through the cracks, and I'm wondering if I'll even find the time to be able to play it before I prepare this Switch 2 best of list, because I do think this game is going to be good enough to make the list if I can find the time to play it. It's sort of a tower defense type game where during the day you sort of meet people and get them to your army, and then at night you protect the queen, the goddess, whatever it would sort of be, from evil spirits as they attack the town. But it's, as I said, it's just now a question of time, money, competition for your time as well, or going to be a theme throughout this list. And unfortunately, it just looks to be that this game might just sit on the backlog for some time. At number 9, we have Mio Memories in Orbit. This is a beautiful hand-drawn Metroidvania. And as you can see here, absolutely gorgeous. It came out back in January and reviewed really well. The reason I didn't pick it up was I really wanted to devote January, February to my backlog. But when I found out the game took somewhere between 15 to 20 hours, I really ruled myself out of purchasing it. I thought if it was 10 hours or less, I would have picked the game up. And now I just assume that when it goes on sale, I'll pick it up later in the year. There'll be some time that I can put towards it. And now here we are. It is on sale. And I just don't think I'm going to find the time to do it. So this is a game that ultimately is just going to slip through the cracks and just not be played. At number 8, I've got Fast Fusion, the launch title. I've played all of the Fast Racing series. There was Fast Racing Neo, I believe, on the Wii U. There might have even been a game on the Wii. The launch title, Fast RMX, I put roughly 5 hours into, and that's one of the main reasons why I didn't pick it up at launch. I wasn't sure how much time I would put into it. And additionally, Mario Kart World was the big launch title. Additionally, it was a racing game. So it was do I want to play 2 racing games at once? I thought, no, I'll focus on the big flashy launch title. And I thought, I'll get to Fast Fusion because it is a cheaper game. Launching at around $20. I thought maybe even if there's a sale, I'll pick it up, play it 5-10 hours, have a good time. And that just hasn't happened. And I don't know if I'm going to find the time to be able to do it now with everything coming out. At number 7, I've got Cast and Chill, which is a cozy fishing game that came out back in December. At the time, I was playing Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and it was about as good as the way I tried to say it initially. I just enjoyed my time with that game, but it was a game of highs and lows, and now it might have been better if I'd been playing Cast and Chill. It's a game that's reviewed quite well. It looks to just be go out there, fish, relax. It's not going to be a game that's overly tense, but now I sit here, it takes roughly 15 to 20 hours to beat, and it's going to be a theme throughout this. The game is cheap. It goes on sale pretty regularly. I think it's about $22 full price, $16 I find when it's on sale. So it's something that could end up on my Switch too, but right now I just don't think I'm going to be able to play it anytime soon. At number 6 is Good Night Universe. And the main reason this game wasn't picked up when it came out back in November was that 2025 was unbelievably stacked year for video games. There was a period between probably September and the end of October where there was a game weekly that I wanted to pick up, and I picked up most of them. So by the time November rolled around and this game came out, even though it is a shorter game, I believe around 4 hours, and it had reviewed very, very well, I just thought I'm already just overwhelmed with the amount of things that I want to play that this has fallen through. Of all the games on this list, due to the fact that it is a shorter length game, I think that this game, once it goes on sale, I think could be picked up and played, and you could see it fall onto a Switch best of list, but we just have to wait and see, unfortunately. At number 5 is Grid Legends, because sometimes you just want to go fast. And this came out, I want to say, towards the end of January, and I was tempted to pick it up because I wanted a more, even though this is not full simulation, it's a far more realistic racing game than something Nintendo's delivered in Kirby Air Riders and Mario Kart World. It's not the best reviewed game. I think it's the worst reviewed game on this top 10 list. But it was one that I was really interested in picking up, and one I still might down the line. However, at the time I thought, no, I'll stick to my plan of keeping just playing games in my backlog. And now here we are 2 months later, looking at everything that's coming out for the rest of the year, and I just don't know if I'm going to find the time to play it. At number 4 is Chronos: The New Dawn. I'm not a big fan of the scaries. They freak me out a little bit. I saw The Shining when I was about 12, 13. I was like, that's it. I'm done with horror. I want nothing to do with it. But I have recently picked up Resident Evil 9 because back in 2023, I played Resident Evil 4 Remake and really enjoyed it. And I just want to hang out with Leon again. I was somewhat interested in Chronos when it was first announced because of all the hype around Silent Hill 2 and Bloober Team's the way that they delivered with that game. I didn't play Silent Hill 2, so I was tempted to pick this up, but this game came out, I believe, the same week as Hollow Knight Silksong. And as a result, I went with Silksong. Had a good time with Silksong, but just ultimately just found it too difficult for me personally. But Chronos does go on sale occasionally, especially the physical copy in stores. So it is possible that I could pick it up down the line. However, I just don't know in the short term if I'd have the time to play it. At number 3, I've got Deltarune, which was a Switch 2 launch title. Chapters 1 and 2 were free and on the Switch 1 for quite some time, I think years. And chapters 3 and 4 came across at launch. I was tempted to pick it up and decided against it purely because I don't know when to play this game. The initial plan apparently was it was going to be a 4-chapter game, and by the time the game came out, it was announced that there's going to be chapters 5, 6, and 7, and I wouldn't even be surprised if once chapter 7 comes out, there's maybe even an 8, 9, and 10. And so, with chapter 5 coming out later in the year, I just don't know when is the perfect time to pick it up? Do you pick it up, play a few chapters, wait, sit on it, wait, a year until the next chapter comes out? Or is it something that you should ultimately play in one sitting? So price is really not a factor here. The game, I think, is $37 on the eShop. The reviews have been stellar. Best reviewed game on this list. But it's just a question of when to play it. And then ultimately, once the perfect time does arrive, will it be up against other competition? So it's a bit of a different one here. But I just think ultimately I've lasted this long without playing it. And I think once it probably is done, chapter 7 in, 2028, 2029, I'll probably be well onto something else by then. At number 2, I've got Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which I haven't played a Final Fantasy game. This is one that I was interested in playing. I'm also tempted to play Final Fantasy 16. I'm sitting on a copy on my PS5. I just haven't gotten to it. Another one that I plan to play during the backlog season. Now, the reason that this game I haven't picked up yet is even though it is currently on sale on the eShop and it will continue to go on sale from here on out, especially closer to the launch of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in June, the reason I haven't picked it up is really you're committing to 3 games here if you pick this up, not just the one. And again, the second game is huge, something you could pour 100 hours into. And as someone who probably plays 500 to 600 hours of gaming a year, it's a big commitment if I do agree to go down this path. So the main reason is not necessarily the money, though I do think this game will be cheaper as time goes on. I believe it gets as cheap as $30 on the PlayStation Store, so I wouldn't be surprised if it would get cheaper down the line. But it's more of a question of if I play this one, I'm probably going to want to play the second one, and then the third one when it likely comes out next year. So I think ultimately I might get to it, but maybe there's just some other games that will ultimately take the cake, especially when you consider the length that these games take to complete. And number 1 is Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection. This is a game that I've definitely wanted to check out because, as you can see, I've got a hell of a lot of Amiibo, and really I haven't delved into the Monster Hunter franchise. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to go and check it out. And unfortunately, this game has been it's the triple whammy of what's going on here, because I played the demo, which basically is the first sort of 3 hours of the game, enjoyed my time with it, definitely interested to play further. But the game is the most expensive game in Australia, especially physically. The regular retail price is $130. It's $108 on the eShop, which is just quite expensive. For record, most games are about $110, a full price game. So it's an expensive game, and that's sort of the cheapest you can find it. Additionally, a week before, Pokemon Pokopia came out and just took all the time that I know what to do with. And I think, that has taken preference. And now I look at all the games that are coming out over the next couple of months, and I just think, well, where am I going to find the time to play this? Because this game takes roughly 50 hours to beat. And I just don't think, even if the price wasn't an issue, the competition with other games coming out and just the time, right now I'm more in a spot where I would rather play Mini Shoot Adventures, Resident Evil 9, probably Darwin's Paradox, and Pragmata, all for the same time that it would take to beat Monster Hunter 3. So months down the line, I expect probably 6 months from now, maybe even closer to 3, this game could be even close to half price, because this game is not selling well despite stellar reviews. But unfortunately, this is sort of the triple whammy. The price I think is too high for this game. It is an incredibly long game to beat, and the competition right now is fierce, and I just don't see how it slips into my gaming weekly ritual, really. And yeah, that is my top 10 games on Switch 2 that I've missed. Let me know what you think. What are your games that you've missed? And be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.